So we get a great chance to get back on the practice floor today. Yesterday was a mandatory day off, so we're back on the practice floor in a few minutes. We're going to watch some film, do a lift, go out and have a good practice, and have to speed it up with a long trip to Arizona. Today will be a big prep day. We're going to have to practice there tomorrow, later on during the day, so we won't want to do. I don't like to travel a long distance and then practice. It never seems to work out. So today will be like the day before. Tomorrow will be a tune-up. So we've got a lot of things to prepare for, but the biggest focus will be how does Michigan get better. So that will be the big focus of today's practice.
Jake? Coach, after the NJIT loss, you had Eastern Michigan come in here, and then after the Eastern Michigan loss, of course, you got to go out and play a tough game on the road. What changes when you're coming off a loss and you've got a really tough game?
I mean, it's a good question, but I mean, nothing really changes. I mean, basically, we try to figure out what we need to do to improve, and we just go about it every day. I mean, it's not about, okay, we got this game, we got to practice. You got to practice different schemes to get ready for the scouting report. But our whole thing every day is how do you mix getting better, developing your talent, and also winning the next game, and that's the plan today.
Right.
On radio this morning, you said there's some significant injuries
outside
of Derek.
Spike has an injury that has been bothering him for over a year, and he's been trying to fight through it, and he's going to fight through it all year. But there's moments in the game where it really bothers him. So I'd rather not be specific on what it is, but it keeps him from performing at the level he's played at before. So.
Looking back to last year, you had the 6-4 start. Is that something that you can use also as fresh motivation to say that, hey, a bad non-conference start necessarily doesn't mean the end of the year? You still got plenty of goals, plenty of accomplishments in front of you that you can do.
You know, the whole approach has been not as much where I'm sure that will come up. Is let's just get better. That was the whole approach last year. Was let's just get better. And if we get better, all those other things will take care of itself. And, you know, I think we've had 5 last-minute games. We won 2, we lost 3. And we won a lot of those last year. How do we get out of those couple possessions? How do we have just a couple more possessions? Instead of focusing on the record, let's just get better. And it's always been the way I've coached all these years. You have goals at the beginning of the year, but sometimes you got to look at those goals and you got to say, hey, let's put those goals aside. Our goal right now is to improve as a team.
In Zach's case, is there anything that you sit down and talk to him about, or do you have him shoot a little bit more? Is there anything that needs to be done at this point with two sub-part games?
Too. You don't want to dwell on it too much because he is still shooting 37 or 38% from 3. He and I will watch clips today. We'll do some extra shooting today, and he practice usually can figure out a lot of those things, but we need to practice. I mean, the exam period next week will be, well, we won't practice as long. It'll be very important to just try and get people back to doing the right habits, whether it's the shooting technique, a lot of things. You don't touch on it too much when you got a lot of games in a row. You have to wait for it to happen.
We'll come back over here with John.
Speaking of getting better, what are some of the things, the subtle things that a 4th and 5th year Jordan Morgan knew instinctively that your bigger guys will pick up along the way that they can't do now?
Well, I think incrementally they are improving, even much more than even a 4th or 5th year player, because it takes time. They're getting thrown in there where not necessarily does that always happen. And I think Ricky and Mark are really learning at a great rate. It's just that they were at ground zero. So they have to, they got to, the retention of it is the biggest issue with most young players. All right, I got to this point. I was in position to be in position, and then 2 days later, that same play will happen with a couple different actions, and it was like they never saw it before. Trying to recognize the concept instead of the particular play is a big issue. They're scratching their head on the plays that we call, but they got to sort of put it into the right box, the right silo, all these little things that are happening, and realize they're all the same play, just different looks.